Hey folks, I'm Rick Lamont, and I'm going to be reacting to the fourth episode of Cyberpunk Edgerunners, and I just did a brilliant introduction and was not recording. Oh well. Okay, so far the show's been wonderfully chaotic, very high energy with a lot of gratuitous violence, but it's had some wonderful quiet moments that punctuate the brutality and give you a chance to breathe and appreciate the characters for who they are besides people with chrome fists. And it's been marvelous. I've really enjoyed the first three episodes so far. And because of this show and other reasons, I've been discussing dystopias a lot. One part in particular is the Panopticon. Now, the Panopticon, if you're not familiar, was a jail proposed by the 18th century, I think, philosopher Jeremy Bentham. Now, he was the father of utilitarianism, and that's a whole other thing. But the Panopticon consisted of basically a rotunda with the jail cells lining the circumference, and in the center was a guard tower. And it really only needed a single guard because through a series of blinds and louvers, it was designed so that a single guard could watch any prisoner, and prisoners would not know if they're being watched. So the idea was that people would be on their best behavior because they don't know if they're being observed or not. And this makes for an interesting analogy to the modern surveillance state, where there are cameras everywhere, on banks, on laundromats, inside gas stations and convenience stores, grocery stores, just on the street, both outside of businesses, red light cameras. In any city of any size, it's impossible to go, well, very far without being caught on a camera somewhere. But Jeremy Bentham had his reservations about giving the guards unchecked power. It's the idea of who watches the watchers. So in his thought experiments and proposals, and he even tried to build one, there was a policy and a mechanism for the guards themselves to be observed and to be subject to inspection, I believe was the word used. Funnily enough, I think in this modern surveillance state, it's the camera's in the hands of the people. The cell phone is the best example. People are filming pretty well constantly. In a sufficiently dense city, you cannot go very far without seeing someone out doing their Instas or their TikToks or their YouTube vlogs. They have the potential, and they have in fact caught the misdeeds of people in power, the misdeeds of people who think they are in power, the casually racist, the casually violent, and adults who should just know better. And in some cases, the more egregious acts caught on camera have resulted in anywhere from public shaming to loss of a job to criminal prosecution. And in many cases, it just serves as a warning to others that just be a decent person. If for no other reason, then someone's going to catch it on camera and put it on TikTok, and you'll have to cancel your Twitter account. But in Cyberpunk 2077, there are cameras spread throughout the city, just like anywhere else in the world. And these cameras are generally unchecked, except by the people who own them, and they're usually not monitored by people. They're a game mechanic, of course. Arguably, they are monitored by AI, which is perhaps an upcoming reality for cameras in this world. But rather than everyone carrying cell phones or the equivalent technology so that the average person can keep those in power in check, we have the Netrunners, the Edgerunners, the Cyberpunks, such as V, who have the ability to hack into cameras and disable them, monitor them, whatever. But that's an interesting possibility that there are, or could be, vulnerabilities to the surveillance state. It's returning power back to people who would watch the Watchers. So anyway, I have with me Verity. She's going to keep me company, I hope. We'll see. And I've got my tea. And anyway, I am really excited to be watching episode 4. And here it goes. So, headphones on. And let's go. Okay, it's slow motion. He was using the Sandy, maybe? Was that a flashback or one of those 8 hours previously sort of thing? I think I've commented enough about the opening credits, but they really are good. Okay, here we go. Aha, the afterlife. Great spot.
Any movement?
Dead. Nothing.
I think I know where that is too. Yeah, I used the afterlife as my background on my previous video for episode 3. Oh, I have a notepad of the characters so far.
Meantime, you and me, let's go to town.
And that's Dorio. That kissing scene was kind of cringy.
Was you, wasn't it? Punk kid who clipped and junked a Saka limo. Hell of an entrance.
Well, there's always next time.
Huh?
I'll do better next time.
The monorail shots always just really cool.
Oh, David, my man, what's going on?
Rebecca!
Everything good? What's up, June? You need something?
Is Pilar here?
Ugh. Yo, bro, it's for you!
He's your brother.
Are they
Main
siblings?
So is that everything? Do I clock out now?
See you soon, Dimples.
Interesting. So Pilar's limbs, I know I've talked about them before, but I think the hardest thing would be learning to use things like that.
It's yours. You said to keep him.
Walk that dog. Tucker him out.
Keep up then.
Training montage. She's kind of the group's hacker, I take it?
Just why would Netrunners have to, run?
If you lead a life of crime, sometimes you need to get away. Is that Broseph?
So hey,
What now?
Back to the training
how old
montage.
are you anyway?
Dude,
How things going with Lucy? Treating her right?
that's a question.
I didn't mean that came out wrong. Just meant your age, your skills, they don't add up.
Only gonks talk down to others based on age.
Gonks like,
Long-limbed techies.
what do you mean by treating her right?
My clue is June. You need to grow a pair.
Okay.
Had enough that night, so I fried him slightly. Fucked off real quick after that.
Some sort of electrical discharge weapon?
Or, at least she ain't into me like that.
Yeah, probably June.
I mean, on the one hand, never doubt yourself. On the other hand, never expect. Lizzie's Bar, another famous 2077 landmark.
Said she wants to go to the moon. Guess it's her dream or whatever.
So, when she said that she hasn't told anybody else, I think that's true. Is that the shooting range in, is it A10, the starting home for V?
If that's supposed to be a pep talk, no need. I don't go down easy.
Another one off the soundtrack. Yeah, I turned around and bought the first 2 volumes of the soundtrack. Yep. All the things that pop out of arms. The blades, the wire. It's told non-linearly.
Special BD she had.
You two went on a date to the moon?
Smoking with the mask is interesting. Doing some shopping. So if you could have any upgrades like this, any replacement organs, enhancements, what would you do? Their hand size difference.
Hey, quiet down!
Oh, he's seen better days.
Hey, homie!
He just needs to kind of chill out. He's excitable. Oh, Cyber Psycho? Oh. And here we are back at the opening. Yeah, his eyes are kind of all wigging out. Yeah, that's his perception, the Cyber Psycho's perception of reality. That's her brother that was just killed. Pilar's still standing.
Wait, Rex needs a lullaby!
Knowing that Rebecca's not going to be using her best judgment. They took her... They calmed her down. How about that?
You're bleeding.
KO.
Not you again.
You know I'm not a licensed physician.
Make sure you get her home when she's clean, all right? Maine said you could take his wheels.
Losing a member. Losing a team member.
Night.
Yeah.
Can we talk?
Don't really know how to process it right away.
Remember that moon BD we did?
It was actually the first time I told anyone.
These moments away from the chaos, these quiet moments, are my favorite.
Wasn't pissed off or anything. It's just... Well, yeah, guess I kinda was.
Angry's understandable.
Don't make a name for yourself as a cyberpunk by how you live.
By how you die.
Make a name by how you die. It's not the life or the end you deserve.
Yeah, afterlife, they'll name a drink after you. After you die. Another kick-ass scene.
I don't want you to die on me.
The colors, the lighting, it just... fantastic. And this kiss doesn't seem so... Ew. Okay, another fantastic episode. Okay, another incredible episode. This show just keeps getting better and better. Oh, I have company. Well, she's fast asleep. Oh well. Okay. So yeah, this show just keeps getting better and better. And again, the use of color throughout is always perfect. There's nothing bad I can say about it. The action's always good. I guess because it's animation and because of the I talked about the stuttery nature in the last video. They're able to emphasize things through the use of time. It's not unlike the old black and white hand cranked movies where you could change the feeling just by changing how fast you crank. So in a bit of action, you can not touch the microphone. In a bit of action, you can freeze frame and then pick up. I guess the live action equivalent would be the Matrix, where, well, you can play with the passage of time and the perception of time. And that works well for the Sandevistan. It worked very well for the Cyber Psycho, where you could emphasize how fast things are going and then slow things down and show those minute changes. Have you ever been in one of those situations where time just slows to a stop? I remember I was 13 years old, and it was, I guess, kind of a Boy Scouting thing. We were out doing dirt bikes in Skull Valley, Utah, middle of the desert, and I'd never ridden before, and it was like I guess a little 125cc. It was the desert, but it had rained fairly recently, and people had been out four-wheeling, so there were these really deep ruts that had then kind of baked hard in the sun. And so I'm cruising along, and I get caught in one, and it's really hard to steer out. So I managed to gut it a bit, hop out, and then I don't know if I caught some sagebrush in the forks or hit a rock or something, but I went over the handlebars. I landed straight on my shoulder, broke my collarbone, but this 2-second flight through the air seemed to last for 30 seconds at least. Time slowed so much, and the brain is really good at these kinds of perceptions to accentuate things. And that's what this show gives me the feeling of, with a Sandy, you get the idea of just how fast David's moving. Actual elapsed time in the number of seconds it takes to watch the thing, it takes a lot longer. So to David, this half a second that it takes to go snatch a cigarette or rip off a bunch of chips, it's this walk in the park. It's a stroll. For everybody else, it's a blur that they can barely see. Again, with the Cyber Psycho, they kind of emphasize that. I don't know that he was speed boosted, but he certainly had heightened reflexes. The brain is extraordinarily flexible with perception, including the perception of time. She meowed. I think it's these flexibilities, these elasticities that make a lot of these enhancements actually theoretically possible. Pilar's limbs would take a lot of time to adapt to. Just as an example, if you have a cochlear implant, it takes you a lot of time to learn to hear, to understand what these weird impulses mean. The brain, has to relearn how to do things after an injury or, things like that. So for Pilar, the amount of physical therapy, for the lack of a better word, would be substantial unless there is some form of cybernetics, some form of AI that enhances that process. And I think that would be the real stopgap for that extreme of an augmentation. Some things, improved lungs that give you greater endurance, no problem. The ability to jump higher would be more of a mental expectation. The ability to drop further without shattering your legs or whatever. Overcoming that fear that you're going to shatter your legs is something that you would need to develop, and that's usually something that most people don't challenge themselves on. They leave a lot of safety net that no one takes a drop right at that limit. They leave themselves a lot of space. Jumping higher, same thing. Running faster, perhaps where augmentation someone's taking a bath, where augmentation would really be problematic is, say, you replace your arms for greater strength and hardened fists so you can punch through walls. You'd really have to harden your entire skeletal system and all your muscles, because hitting that wall, the force has to be absorbed by everything. You cannot increase your carrying capacity just by strengthening your legs. Your back carries a lot of that weight, so you would need a hardened spine, the muscles to maintain being upright. So the piecemeal modification is not really realistic just because of, well, physics and physiology. So some things are possible, are more possible. Other things are more fiction. But I think the most intriguing aspects of this show, the game it's based on, and the genre in general, isn't the technology improvements, it's the statement it makes about society today. And that's how dystopian fiction really works. It's not, dystopian fiction's usually projected into the future or an alternate history, and, you know, there's some speculation as to where technology's going and what will technology be like and what will technology do for society, or in the case of science fiction set in the future. But really, dystopian fiction is it's a statement about where we are now. It's a statement about society. We've seen the extreme differences in social class between, you know, Arasaka executives who wield incredible power and have unimaginable privilege versus, you know, people like David. He always has food on the table, but he doesn't always have clean clothes. He had to hack his Halo because they couldn't afford, or he was under the perception that they couldn't afford the upgrade fees. And then there are people who are more destitute. You've got varying gangs all fighting for power, control, territory, everything gangs fight for. It's an arms race between factions versus the corpos versus et cetera, et cetera. So dystopian fiction really is just a mirror. And in Cyberpunk 2077, the dystopia isn't just limited to the poverty-stricken. For example, in one of the earlier missions, you go into a hotel and you're stealing the relic, I believe it's called. And the hotel is fantastic. It's beautiful. There's this wall that's a giant terrarium, and it goes up and up and up throughout the entire tower. It's amazing. And all the employees have gold skin. It looks like class. And then if you read some notepads and documents here and there, it's that gold skin is a mandatory requirement for employment. It's not just that you have to wear a uniform or do something like that on the clock. You have to change major aspect of your appearance, of your personality, of who you are for a job. And these people are presumably being paid well. It's one of the finest hotels in the city, if not the finest. So is it worth it? And that's something that I think the individual would have to decide for themselves, but I don't think it would be a choice that must be made. So here we have people working in a very fine establishment, presumably being paid very well, with their own lives being controlled. How far up does this kind of control go? And I'd imagine pretty high. I think everybody is under the thumb of someone else. No one has the kind of real freedom that they think they do. Everyone is in a prison. And as I talked about at the beginning about the Panopticon, everyone is being watched. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this reaction and my discussion. I'm really loving this series. It's giving me so much to think about. The art, yeah, I can't wait for episode 5. In the meantime, you know the drill. Like, subscribe, ring bells, and thank you for watching. Bye.